Hello, boys and girls. Welcome tonight. I appreciate you coming. We're going to read a book tonight called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now, that's getting pretty close to old Santa Claus, but it's written by Dr. Seuss, and it was written for Terry Owens. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask me why. Now it's quite, no one knows the reason. It could have been his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could have perhaps been the shoes was on too tight. But I think the most reason of all may have been his heart, because it was two sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, it just stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who, staring down from his cave with a sour Grinch's frown on his face at the warm lighted windows below their town, for he knew everyone who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging the mistletoe wreaths, and they hanging their stockings. He snarled with a smear. Tomorrow's Christmas is practically here. Then he growled, and his Grinch fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They would rush out to get their toys. And then, oh, the noise, noise. Oh, there's one thing he hated. He hated the noise. He just hated the noise. Oh, then the Who's, young and old, would sit down for their feast. They would feast, and they would feast, and they would feast, and feast, and feast. They would feast on Who pudding, the rare Who roast beef. There's something the Grinch couldn't stand, in at least. And then, they do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand together with Christmas bells ringing, and they stood hand in hand, and the Who would start singing, and they would sing, and they would sing, and sang, and sang, and sang. And the more the Grinch thought of Who Christmas sang, the more the Grinch thought, I would stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming, but how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch, he got a wonderful and awful idea. I just knew what to do. The Grinch laughed with his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and coat. And he chuckled and chuckled. What a great Grinch trick. With the coat and this hat, I look a lot like St. Nick's. And all I needed is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'd make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Come here, Max. Then he took a real ready thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on ramshackle sled he had, he hitched up old Max. And then the Grinch said, "Get it up." And the sleigh went sliding down towards the homes of where the Who lay a snooze in their town. All of the windows were dark, quite snow-filled air. All of the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, this is stop number one. The old Grinch claws hissed as he climbed on the roof with each empty bag of fists. Then he slid down the chimney a rather right pitch, but old Saint Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two, and then he stuck his head out of the fire pan flue. When the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, and all the first thing they had to go. Then he slithered and slumped with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room. He took every present, pop guns and bicycles and roller skate and drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorns, and plums. He stuffed them all in his bag. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuck all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slumped to the icebox. He took the Who feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beef. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, the Grinch even took the last Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee, and now grinned. Oh, he was grinning. I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove the tree. His head, as small, sound like a coo of dove. He turned around fast and he saw Who? Little Cindy Lou. Who was not more than two. The Grinch, caught by the tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of water. She stared at the Grinch and she said, "Sandy Claus, why are you taking the Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, the old Grinch was smart and he was so slick. He thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree and that little light needs to be fixed. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back." And his fib fooled the little child. Then he planted her head and he got a drink and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went up to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and started to stuff up. Then the last thing he took was a log from the fire. Then up the chimney, himself an old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck food that he left in the house was a crumb even too small for a mouse. Then did all the same thing with all the Who houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who mouses. It was dawn, all in the Who's was still in the bed, and all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sleigh, packed it up, the presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, the tinsel, the trimmings, everything. 3,000 feet up, sighed Mike Crumpet. He rose with his load to the tip-tops to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's. He was Grinch's leg, humming. They found out now no Christmas is coming. They just walked up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths were hung wide open for a minute or two. Then Who's down to Whoville with all the boo-hoos. That's a noise. Grinch grinned. Then I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising from the snow. It started very low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very merry. He started down a look at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes, and then he shook. What he saw was shockingly surprised. Everybody down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming, it came. Somehow other, he came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzled. How could it be so? It came without a ribbon. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. Oh, it puzzled him for 3 hours till he puzzled and was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hasn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from the store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day, and the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. He himself, the Grinch, carved the little roast beef. Boys and girls, that's the end of the Grinch. He liked Christmas from that day forward.